Is it running? Oh, it's the same. Not so sure. Microphone is on. You hear me? Camera also. Good day. My name is Martin Schweiger. I'm a patent attorney and powerlifter in Singapore. And today is Friday and probably is the 25th of July 2025, but I'm not sure. And I take you with me on my daily walk through Singapore. You know my program because of my metabolic syndrome discovered 1.5 years ago. I have a strict program, which means every day at least 1 hour walk, better more, sometimes 2. And yeah, so this morning I worked in the office. It is now almost 2 p.m. and I have only now the opportunity to walk a bit. I show you Singapore a bit so that you know how that island is. And I also talk about my healing, which comes with improved fitness. Yeah. I told you my plan, right? 100 days in ketosis, counting from last Tuesday, 3 days ago. And I want to catch 2 birds with 1 stone. What I want to say is I want to use one goal to achieve a second goal at the same time by doing the same thing. And my number 1 goal is taking part in the Asian Championship for powerlifting, which will be in Istanbul from the 1st of December 2025 onwards. And that's a bit more than 100 days away from last Tuesday. So, but still is a good marker. A lot of things will happen by then. "100 days is a lot." So, yeah, and of course, I will still compete in the 105 kg class, which starts at 93 kg. But different from my last competition in Japan earlier this month, Himeji, where I just aimed to be a little bit below 105 kg body weight. This time in Istanbul, I will try to get as close as possible to the body weight of 93 kg, but from above. So ideally I have 93.1 kg. Although 92 would also work because filling up with water is always easier than getting rid of the water in the body. And most of the body weight is water. So, in very short words, These 100 days also come with a restoration of my body. You know my 3 goals, right, for the coming time. Number 1, I want to lose visceral fat because I have too much. Number 2, what was number 2? Number 3 was that I get my gut health improved. What was number 2? My sleep, yeah. I want to improve my sleep. And you will ask now, why would he want to improve further his health when he's already in the normal range, which I am. So if you send me to a doctor, then the doctor would say, okay, you don't need anything. Continue what I've done so far and you will be okay. No, but it's not enough for me. There are still some irregularities. For example, when I eat carbohydrates, then my blood sugar would go through the roof up to values of 10, 11 millimole per liter blood glucose. And that is despite I'm not resistive to insulin, because that spike would get under control within a very short time, less than 2 hours. I would be back to normal. But if I do that for an extended period of time, as I did after the competition, so for 1 week I had cheat day after cheat day with carbohydrates, then my blood glucose is creeping up, not coming down to low values easily. But that can also be because my body produces more blood glucose from protein and fat than what is needed. It's difficult to say because there are 4 or 5 possible reasons for my blood glucose being high despite being in ketosis. And I am in ketosis, I can measure that. So this morning, nice truck. This morning, my blood ketones were 2.2 millimole per liter, which is quite high. It's a sign that my liver is producing ketones from body fat. My breath acetones were at about 28 or so, which means that my body is using ketones for producing energy. But my blood glucose was high, was in the high 6.4 or maybe even 6.8 towards noontime. And I really got somehow disturbed because my AI tells me to stay patient, remain in intermittent fasting, which I was. So last thing I ate yesterday was something about maybe 7-ish or so. So I didn't eat for 19 hours or even 20 hours before I ate something before. But when I was into 16 hours or so, my blood glucose was still high. So I asked my AI, why is this so? And we discussed all sorts of things. And the AI just encouraged me to not break the fast, but wait until the blood glucose comes down. And you know what? At noon time, 12, it came down very fast. And then I had a choice. Either I do my walk right away and break fast afterwards. Is an option. Because then my body would eat right into the body fat and the visceral fat that I want to bring down. Or it said, why don't you break fast if you don't feel like fasting more? And then I asked, yeah, but because the AISA recommends still to walk after having a meal immediately, because that would help to blunt the blood ketones that are increased after having a meal. And so I asked, so still the walk after the breaking the fast? I said, yes, do so. So otherwise it would have requested me to do my walk before breaking fast and then break fast and then walk again. So I decided, no, save time, break fast and walk, which is what I do now. Yeah, so that is also the important insight. A friend of mine told me that there are 4 levels of fasting and you measure them essentially with 3 measurement values: breath acetone, blood ketones and blood glucose. And of course, measuring one is better than measuring nothing, but he told me that only after starting to measure the blood ketones did he discover the 4 levels. So the first level is very obvious. You have no ketones in your blood, no acetone in your breath, but your blood glucose is, as it always is, elevated. The second level is, I believe, if I remember right, ketones in the blood are elevated, and ketones, now acetone in the breath are elevated, and blood glucose is low. That's the level 4. And in between there's some variation with the measurement values. So the problem is to keep the body in ketonic mode all the time, and not only for a part of the day. It's really important, I believe. So I had that before my competition in Japan. So for 10 days or 12 days, my blood ketones were high, my breath acetones were high. And at the end of the period, my blood glucose was low. And then I made a mistake, because I thought that I need to bring up my blood glucose for competing properly. And I only found out recently that this is nonsense. You can also compete when burning ketones. And that's much healthier when you are recovering from a metabolic syndrome. And that also explains why I'm not fully healed from a metabolic syndrome. There's a insulin resistance that is characterizing for metabolic syndrome. Comes together. Means that the body doesn't react to the insulin as it should. And there are two major parts of the body when it comes to that. There's the liver. I believe together with the pancreas it produces the insulin. Or the pancreas produces the insulin and the liver is the first one to receive it. So that certain metabolic functions can be triggered by the insulin. And as the rest of the body that receives the insulin through the bloodstream. And in my case, my body, except the liver, is used to react to the insulin because I believe most fat is removed. While the liver is not. And that's the reason, probably, why there's still glucose in my blood when I'm not eating carbohydrates. There's some glycogen stored in the liver, but I believe that I've really depleted all the glycogen. So I did water fast day 24 hours on Tuesday, followed by 17 and a half hours of dry fasting, eating nothing. I walked about 25,000, 30,000 steps in these 2 days. Then I broke the fast on Wednesday, the day before yesterday. Okay, I ate a bit much and I had a glass of milk, or maybe two. It was not good, but that's not something that would fill the glycogen in the liver and in the muscles. So, where is that glucose coming from? And there's a process called neogluconeogenesis. That is Latin and it means new glucose generation. And it is going on in my body. And it is done by the liver, among others. And why is it so? Because the liver, still with all the fat from around it, the visceral fat, and maybe even fat in the liver, I don't know, doesn't react to the insulin as it should. And in the case of neogluconeogenesis, the reaction would be do not produce more. But that's only one explanation. Another explanation is that the liver realizes that my brain needs energy and the brain is not yet used to using the ketones, or the liver thinks that the brain is not used to using the ketones. So, for one reason or the other, or maybe there are even more reasons, I believe I saw 4 or 5, but I only recall 2 of them. There's glucose in my body which does not stem from food that I have eaten. And my AI is telling me that this can only be healed, removed, restored by staying in ketosis for an extended period of time. Now guess how long? Yes, 100 days. What a coincidence. It says that after 30 days in ketosis, I should see first results. Sounds good, huh? Now I remember a third reason for having glucose. The third reason, says my AI, could be that my metabolism is not used to using or burning glucose anymore or having carbs anymore, so that even a minimum amount of carbohydrates would cause the liver to overreact. And there's always some glycogen left with glucose in it, and just issue that extra glucose. Doesn't sound plausible to me, but I wanted to let you know. So, you know now the story. The 100 days come from that place. I want to restore my body. And yeah, one important measurement tool is here my continuous blood glucose meter. It gives me a trend and not an absolute value, which helps me already, because if my breath analyzer tells me that my breath acetones are high and I did not have any blood glucose spike over the past day or so, I do not need to measure my blood ketones again, and also not my blood glucose. And that finger pricking is always a disturbance. Also not quite cheap, because each test costs $1 or so. And if you test 5 times a day, then it's $150 a month. And so I better use that for other stuff, like supplements. So that also sets the stage for what to come. Actually, I also did the same thing when I was in Japan competing. In the past days before the competition, I only measured my breath, acetone, and my continuous blood glucose meter. That's good enough. So you don't need to over measure everything. Important thing is, stay in ketosis for 100 days. And by the way, if any one of you is watching and you're diagnosed with cancer, I would recommend the same thing, because cancer cells cannot survive on ketones. That's a big difference between cancer cells and normal cells. Cancer cells need to, there's a Warburg cycle, Otto Warburg, and he says that cancer need to ferment sugars in the liquid subject matter, a substance in the cells. And it's not the mitochondria that is converting the glucose, but it's fermented like a beer, a brew. And that also explains why cancer patients have a stale smell. It's because the cells produce that all over the body, not only in the big tumors that you see. That also tells me that I need to look after my mitochondria, keeping them healthy. It's really hot. But the good thing is, walking in the sun produces vitamin D and also other substances. Traffic light. Wait until, oops. Wait until it's green. So in short words, that's where I'm coming from. I recommend to all cancer patients, get into ketonic mode, do the measurements that I do, and stay there for a very long time. You can still continue your traditional treatment with a school medicine, but nothing beats moving the body into a state where the cancer cells cannot survive. Wow, this is really hot. I believe I need to sit down and get a glass of lemon water, sparkling. Sugarcane juice. How does that work? There's a sugarcane juice machine and it does the sugarcane. You see a sugarcane here. Interesting. Sugarcane juice. Then here's a absolutely apple squeezer. And this is the old orange juicer that you know. All in front of the Plateau shopping center. It's a very funny old shopping center. I don't know how long this will survive, but it really looks very run down. It's like Singapore 30, 40 years ago. Still there. And if I take everything together, I wrap everything up, then my friend's message, the one who invented the 4 levels of ketosis, he says the worst is if you are in level 2 or level 3, switching between carbohydrates and fat and protein and fiber. Switching during your fasting, no carbohydrates, break fast, eat carbohydrates because it's so healthy, fruits and everything. The truth is it's not. You are chastising yourself when you do that. You are torturing yourself when you do that. It's not a good idea. You should go into full ketosis and stay there for as long as necessary. And I do that. For me. And I told you my goal, right? It's because I want to reduce my visceral fat, because that would improve my liver's reaction to insulin, my liver's insulin resistance, while my entire other body is not insulin resistant. And I measure the progress. My visceral fat this week went already down by 0.5 degrees or so. It was something like 21.0, and this morning it was 20.5. And I will watch it further. At the same time, of course, the total body fat will come down. Although I don't have much subcutaneous body fat, meaning body fat under the skin, between the skin and the muscles and the bones. But the majority of my body fat is in the visceral fat. And that must go. And at the same time, when the body is in a deep ketosis, there would also be autophagy triggered. And autophagy would put every cell in the body in question whether and how much it contributes to the entire body. And that would, for example, remove my excess skin here at the neck, throat. You see these movies of people in YouTube, right? They lose something like 30 kg body weight, but they never go in autophagy. And there's so much excess skin that it sits like a loose suit on the body, and they can move the excess skin. And that's the reason. That brings me, by the way, to the comparison of Ozempic. And I believe that's important for you. People ask me whether or not I take Ozempic. And the answer is very clear: no, I don't. Number one, it's very expensive, I find. So if you invest the same money into strength training, supplements and measurements of your body, laboratory measurements, is a better use of your money, or my money at least. Number two, I don't think I need it, and I'm the walking proof that I don't need it. Because yeah, I simply don't need it. And let's walk inside. It's really hot. The thing with the Ozempic is it blocks a certain receptor in the body, that's what I've heard, from a hunger hormone being docked. And as long as you block that hormone, the body would slowly feed into the fat. But mostly not into the fat, but into the muscles. And that's what I read, that Ozempic patients, and I call them patients because I need a doctor for that.
Yeah.
What?
Would eat up their own muscles. So the weight loss is not by losing fat alone, but also by losing muscles. And in my case, when I went into ketonic mode, I have measurement data that proves that I have built up my muscle, percent-wise. Sometimes even I built up more percent of muscles than I lost in body fat. Not so for the Ozempic people. Ozempic people are not necessarily in ketosis, and they're never in autophagy. And also it's a thing, when you stop taking Ozempic, then the hunger comes back often, and people fall back into the old habits. This is similar to what I did before. I tortured myself into losing weight many times. I believe I've lost over 250, 300 kg weight in my body weight in my lifetime, and I gained them all back. But this time, with my knowledge about ketosis and the measurement values that I have, this is unlikely to happen. Unless I let it happen. But then I know why. So, I don't approve of taking Ozempic unless it really would help you immediately to lose a lot of weight in very little time. But I believe you can also do it without it, by doing what I show you in my videos. So I believe I've pretty much wrapped it all up. See you again tomorrow. Bye.